everybody. My name is Eric McLeod.
And I'm Chris Holden.
And you are listening to LowBlowRadio podcast. This is the blow-by-blow of the horror show at Extreme Rules from WWE. Chris, wow, what an event we had tonight on, it is July 19th, 2020, covering this right after the show here. Wow.
Indeed.
Plenty to talk about, I'd say.
Indeed.
Maybe not always for the better, but yeah, as always with WWE, lots to talk about. So,
what I've written down, I've got a sheet here. So to go along with my notes as we're talking about this tonight, I'm literally going to write down what I saw as pro and a con and just check mark underneath pro and con as we go through. Because I don't know right now if I liked the show and thought it was okay in general as a whole, or if I thought it was the worst fucking show I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
I'm right in the middle. And I'm not sure which way I go yet, because there were parts that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Some parts that left me scratching my head. There were other parts that left me physically sickened. I'm so torn. And others just absolutely confused beyond belief. So let's get into it.
I think that's a fair assumption. Would you like me to briefly cover the sort of stuff that you had missed early on?
Please. I was driving my children around, so I did not get to see the first match. I think is all I did miss, but I missed it.
Well, yeah.
And the pre-show.
Yeah, I'm going to say pre-show there was only, again, they always sort of throw something up last minute, which I think is unfortunate because this tends to be the spot where from their view, it seems to be, oh, we need to fill 10 minutes or whatever. Let's just like put a match together. Whereas like for fans, that's a great point to go see a nice 10-minute solid match. That's like, not usually going to have a botched ending. You get a pretty solid start to finish matchup. And that's what we had on the pre-show. It was Kevin Owens taking on Murphy. And it was just sort of a last minute thrown together thing. I mean, there's a feud-ish there with Murphy being a disciple of Seth. And obviously these two putting on a great sort of fantastic match here to kick off in the pre-show. But again, just sort of unfortunate it was stuck on the pre-show. This could have easily been a match promoted for the event and not hurt it at all for the time that it was. But who knows why it ended up being sort of slotted there. Nothing really like stand out in this. A lot of just sort of the typical Kevin Owens Murphy sort of match. They had, again, only about 10 minutes to work here. Kevin did hit a really good top rope moonsault, that sort of reverse flip into the moonsault that he does. I like that he brings out those certain things only now that he's face, like the stuff that he never did as a heel. I'm like, he's getting more of a face repertoire of moves, which is good to see. And then
such a good worker. He gets that right. Like,
yeah, and both of them. So I think that great way to sort of start things off. So and then super kick into the stunner for the ending. So maybe this leads to a match on Raw or something like that. And I guess story-wise, they were sort of leaning it into that was why Seth was going to be coming out by himself later on, that Murphy, who had been sort of dispatched by Kevin Owens here in this match. So if they're playing that into the story of the night, sure, then that's an easy enough reason to throw this match on early and get it out of the way. We kicked off with the New Day taking on Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura for the SmackDown Tag Team titles in a tables match, which was decided on SmackDown this week. We've had from the last few weeks here some really fun tag matches between the New Day and Cesaro and Shinsuke. Have you seen the ones on SmackDown?
I saw highlights of the one from a couple weeks ago, I think, not the karaoke night show. No, but if they did anything that week, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks back. Yeah,
no, they've been sort of like building that up a little bit and trying to find another tag team to sort of fill the empty void that's happened on SmackDown lately due to injuries and things like that in their tag division. And so the new for the New Day to sort of work with. So yeah, again, a sort of early rush from Nakamura and Cesaro. Too many names too similar here. But the New Day kind of took over there. They were mentioning that on the pre-show they got advice from Devon Dudley about the best ways to sort of utilize a table in a tables match. So, hey, great way to use the producer on SmackDown in the storyline here a little bit.
Good guy for tables advice.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to get table advice, who better to ask if on your roster there? Both teams kind of getting some close table spots once they had the tables sort of set up back and forth in that way. The commentary started especially once Cesaro and Nakamura got the advantage, we're commenting more on Cesaro sort of like his repertoire in the tag team division, like the history with the bar and that kind of stuff, and the history that he'd have with the New Day, and that he would sort of know them from experiencing matches with them and that kind of stuff. So I like that they were sort of leaning on that story-wise. It does sort of like make me sad, though, that it seems like that's the best we're ever going to get from Cesaro at this point, is the sort of best workhorse in a tag team.
Tag team specialist.
Yeah, people say that there's so much more for him, but this seems to be the best suited place for him. They just can't seem to find that other partner that works in the long term. Like
better or worse than what they do with Dolph Ziggler?
Well, hard to say. Yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, they were certainly leaning into that, and then that was certainly sort of Cesaro sort of overpowering of the New Day, and then his understanding of them and teaching Nakamura, so they were able to sort of overcome them. The New Day did eventually get the sort of hot spot, bringing everything back on their end. Kofi setting up a table on top of another table, and hey, we're all wrestling fans. You set something very like particular and proper up like that, I'm thinking, hey, I think we might be getting new tag team champs here as this opening match. And that's exactly what happened when Nakamura eventually got them the advantage back and helped put Kofi up on Cesaro, who powerbombed him from like the second rope turnbuckle all the way to the outside through the two tables. So great looking spot, and big clean ending, and got Cesaro and Nakamura over as the new top tag team here on SmackDown.
Nakasaro is a good name for the tag team.
Hey, there we go. That might be easier for me to say. Nakasaro, sure.
Right on. No, that's interesting. I'm surprised, to be honest. I thought New Day were going to retain, so good.
For sure. I think once they started leaning more into Cesaro's past in the tag team division, it made me think, okay, well, then maybe they are going to stick with this pairing of him and Nakamura more so. And yeah, this is like we said, he's a great workhorse here in the tag division. So great to get Cesaro back in that mix rather than sort of lost in the shuffle elsewhere. We had some affirmations from Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Asuka, and Kairi Sane getting themselves sort of pumped up for their matches, which was sort of odd but interesting. And that just led into Nikki Cross and Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. A good sort of like back and forth for these two, and the story that was sort of building towards this, which was Nikki having to sort of try and tone herself back a little bit with the chaos and whatever, because it was helping her win matches, but it also like she needs to sort of contain it a little bit because it can sort of cost her a little bit. So early on, Scottish. What's that?
She is Scottish.
Oh, well, that's fair. It can be hard to hold that in.
That's, as far as I can tell, that's the story, is Nikki's Scottish. So she's a little bit crazy, you know?
Yes, it's unfortunate that she hasn't really been fleshed out since her just sort of the crazy member of Sanity days.
She's got to rein in her Scots.
Yeah.
But
so there should be more to her by this point, but unfortunately, yeah, she's just sort of the crazy friend of Alexa Bliss. So early on, Bayley was just trying to sort of taunt her to bring out the kind of craziness. Didn't quite work enough for her. She did sort of overcome Bayley with a swinging neck breaker, took her to the outside for a great tornado DDT. They had a lot of really fun spots between each other. Bayley eventually getting the sort of upper hand, obviously. She used Nikki's sort of infamous apron spot kind of against her, kind of doing it right in Alexa Bliss's face, which was a fun camera angle spot that they were able to capture. And then Nikki kind of disappeared underneath the ring and showed up on the other side. So using her craziness as well. And then, yeah, it was just sort of the story of just Nikki kind of overcoming a lot of Bayley's offense, and eventually just sort of Sasha getting a little too worried on the outside and them trying to find an opportunity to maybe take advantage. And she eventually was able to slip Bayley her boss knuckle ring thing that she wears to the ring.
Smart.
And then by jumping up on the apron, that also sort of taunted Alexa Bliss to get up, which then got the ref to get distracted between the two of them, which allowed Sasha the opportunity to, Bayley the opportunity to slam the boss knuckles right into rib cage of Nikki Cross. When the ref turned around, she rolled her up. Oh no, she got her whatever that knee finisher is that she's got.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called. That slammed her into the mat for the 1-2-3 there for the finish. Yeah, just a nice sort of solid match between these two, telling the story. But I feel like again, the story more so is the what are Sasha and Bayley doing to retain and keep their titles at this point.
All the gold, baby.
All the gold, and as we saw later, that visual became even more apparent. And I think this was about the time you showed up when we got the Firefly Funhouse sort of classic horror show vignette that was sort of teasing the swamp match later on. I liked the joke of I'm cutting to something horrific and terrifying. And
last SmackDown.
And it was the karaoke club. At least that's them willing to accept their own terribleness. In classic WWE form, they're just going to shove that down your throat now till you're sick of seeing the fact that they did something terrible. But
yeah,
hey, it made me laugh once, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's in the same vein as the Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, This Is Your Life segment. I think they're going to just take the piss out of themselves with it for a while because they realize, when everybody shits all over it, they can hardly turn a blind eye, can they?
Exactly.
So, yes, I did manage to catch that, and I thought that was gold. That was where I joined. And then it was the U.S. title match, except it wasn't because...
Yes, what we thought was going to be the advertised U.S. title match, which had seemed odd over the last few weeks after they were saying Apollo had been injured or whatever after the attacks from MVP, but he had really just been carrying that new U.S. title. He was the one that debuted it and was saying he was going to take it from Apollo Crews. And then, before they even got to this match, it was sort of announced that Apollo Crews was not sort of sanctioned by the commission.
Cleared.
Not medically cleared, yes, to compete here. He was willing to. He showed up to the event, but not medically cleared to compete. MVP then came out with Bobby Lashley. They sort of laughed and sort of joked around a little bit before MVP, due to forfeit, commissioned himself the U.S. champion.
Now, I see where commentary had a problem with this. But if Lashley had only put on a referee's jersey, right, it would have been cool.
Exactly.
So
maybe cool with one of them, but not the other. No one can seem to be on any kind of agreement here, and that things are getting a little chaotic with the rules, and people seem to be,
Well, it's extreme
picking and choosing
rules
what they
tonight,
want.
So this is definitely going to set what it's setting up. I think anyway, depending on what Apollo's situation actually is. I mean, I'm going to assume they're not lying to us and it's a bulge disc, right? That's true.
Yeah.
Probably not, Rona. Probably not. But I think it's setting up a belt versus belt U.S. title match down the line, similar to what they did with Michaels and Razor Ramon years ago. So we'll have MVP's new belt, and Apollo will have his old U.S. title belt, and they'll both be above the ring for a ladder match that Apollo wins, right? And
even if that's a visual that they just forgot that they could do till later, and they're like, oh, well, let's just push it till the next pay-per-view. Right?
I figure it's
something they could save, even for SummerSlam, which they did announce was coming up in August. That kind of ladder match with the two titles, that visual is just always amazing, and would be a great place to see Apollo showcased.
Having said that, I'm going to slap this. Now, in the first two segments, as you described them, I'm going to give pros, right? Because I love Nakasaro winning the tag titles and the swap there. I didn't see that coming, so that's a pro. And Bayley retaining, I think that's a pro. This one, though, this is a con, because they could have just announced this on the pre-show that the match wasn't coming, and then KO and Buddy get the spot, right? I know they hate putting Buddy on a fucking pay-per-view. Buddy is the pre-show king, but at some point, the poor bastard's got to get his due. So right now, it's a con for this.
Agreed, especially with it leading right into the Seth Rollins match. Why not just take Murphy out right away?
Yeah.
If that's all the story of it was going to be, and if it was just going to be Kevin trying to help Ray out as best he could by sort of lessening the numbers, I easily would have swapped those two spots and had, because then they could have just thrown the highlights to it all night, like, oh, look what MVP did on the pre-show, and just had it even quicker, right? So no, that seemed like a little bit of mismanagement, and again, I don't know how close to the wire they had to sort of call this match, but it seemed like you were obviously maybe able to shift things around here and maybe make the swap and save something like this. So not sure what I would definitely say a con there for that. I would agree.
Then interesting. Went from one con to another. Was it though? The eye for an eye match. Okay, so there were parts of this where it was apparent that these are two very gifted, very skilled wrestlers, not just aerially and technically, but they both know how to work a match. They both play their roles. The heel and the face are excellent. They get what they're doing, and they tell a great story with the match, with their expressions, with the way they do stuff. So in a lot of ways, I really did think it was a really good match. But it was the aspects of it then when it's two guys that aren't suited to the hardcore environment necessarily. Watching Ray smash that kendo stick up over his knee and then taking the bits and try to stab Steph in the eye with it. Right. I nearly had to turn away. And I watch a lot of shit. Like, I was surprised at myself for how queasy that was making me, thinking like, oh, good God, what are they going to do and show me?
Right.
And yeah, so, I mean, let's go blow by blow through it from the beginning. There were bits I loved. The Falcon Arrow on the apron.
Yeah.
Love that spot, man. That was beautiful. It did look like it really hurt.
Yeah, no, the real sort of, I mean, obviously the story of this match was the sort of typical thing, again, in most wrestling, especially here in WWE, though, where if there's a stipulation like that, it's very narrow-minded on that path.
Yes.
So a lot of the moves and things like that are going to be orchestrated towards that one path to victory, which makes sense for the storytelling aspect. There's only one thing you can kind of pay attention to in a ladder match or a cage match or
Battle Royal. It was just saying
Battle Royal,
of Royal Rumble. Instead of watching spots where they're grabbing the top rope and clinging, we're watching spots where someone's going for a wrench to pull someone's eye out with it.
Well, yeah, I guess
he didn't need no wrench. He just used his bloody fist.
Yeah, I guess I had more fun writing down the sort of like list of objects that sort of all of a sudden every time they'd grab something, everything became a threat, right? It started with the pliers, of course, and then the kendo stick, the steel steps, the steel chair, a pen at one point, the corner of the announce table. So every jagged edge became a threat at one point. So that was sort of what was drawing your eye, obviously, most of the match as to who was going to be taking the damage. And then it sort of, storyline wise was sort of the Ray sort of like holding back, going for the eye at first, and then trying to, and then realizing he needed to kind of work Seth a little bit more. And then, Seth just going for the eye all the time. He was ready to blind Rey Mysterio until the end when he kind of wasn't, I guess. I don't know.
Well, after he had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Seth screaming throughout the match, "I'm going to get that eye, Ray." That was just fucking priceless, and I loved it. Samoa Joe on commentary. He's pulling out all the stops. No, Joe, he's pulling out all the eyes. The bits I didn't like, I guess, is in a match like this where the object is to literally, which they reminded us of right at the bell, to win the match, you must remove your opponent's eye. And they've got rebar and kendo sticks, but WWE won't let you do a headshot. So they've got a piece of rebar, and he's jabbing him in the stomach with it. It's like, well, no, smash him in the head. You're trying to take his eye out. Why would anything be off limits here? It's not. So it makes it look a bit silly when they're using weapons, but not really using weapons. Yeah,
I guess in their story, it was to work sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to sort of work the body to slow the guy down so you could go for the eye, right?
But obviously, I mean, when the guy's back's to you and you've got a piece of rebar, if you crack him in the skull with it, you're getting there a lot faster, right? So I don't know how you rectify and how you come between, to use common sense and logic versus what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. You want to use some, I get it. But when the object is to rake out an eyeball, well, you're kind of suggesting right away, everything's off the table as far as the rules go. So to see them not try to bash somebody in the head with it. Later on in the night, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, we saw Dolph smash Drew in the shoulder with a chair. And it was just a perfect looking shot and angle that it looked like a headshot.
Right.
So even stuff like that, a little bit more like, he went for his head, but he caught him in the top of the shoulder instead because he moved. I'd find that a bit more believable or viable, I guess.
I'm not opposed to any of that in my wrestling. I'm done with the concussions. I don't need any more Chris Benoit's in the world. So if guys don't have to take shots to the head, I'm fine with it. If they come up with a way to work it in the story that you're working the body to then go for the eye, chair shots aren't my thing anymore. So
no, I don't.
It does to me. It doesn't feel stupid or silly to attack the body and stuff. I get it, but it's wrestling. It's if he was getting ready to take the guy's eye out, Ray has more friends in the back than Seth does. Bring your friends out, hold him down, and take his eye out. Like, if you're looking at it from a realistic perspective,
kind of, yeah, right. I mean, it's silly.
But well, then that's you know, that you got to let something go for wrestling, right? They're trying to tell you a wrestling story here, not a real fight out in the streets.
Well, okay, but true enough. But in that case, then how dare they introduce the stipulation they introduce, right? Like,
true. I'm just trying to. You got to suspend your disbelief a little, but yeah.
The referee. I mean, that's it. Well, the suspension of disbelief part. It was the same referee, Rod Zapata or Zapata. It is the same referee that reffed Rollins and the Fiend's Hell in a Cell match, who stopped that match for excessive violence in Hell in a Cell. Meanwhile, they assign him the eye for an eye match. That just seems like poor planning by the administration's part. But
well, maybe he's got to learn that, hey, you know, things aren't excessive. You want to see excessive, you're going to see excessive.
No, you're going to see.
Or are you?
The big bump by Rollins on the outside sunset flip, that into the barricade, that was a beautiful looking spot. Rollins bumps like a madman. He was fantastic.
No, I think the wrestling was so great in this match. The stipulation kind of took away from how good just a straight wrestling match was going to be from these two.
Yeah.
Which I think came up again later on too, with the sort of finishes for some of the things that, like, you had some really good match portions, but the overall image of what you're seeing start to finish was not a clear or concise sort of understanding of how to do it.
Right. I think, again, like, all of the weapons and all of the stuff introduced, and we end up seeing Ray loses his eye eventually to exactly the same thing that Rollins did to him a few weeks ago, with his head just being driven into the thing. And all the talk of CGI and all the rumors of how they were going to pull this off, they didn't even bother having a ping pong ball as a fake eye. We just went with, trust us, it's out, and it's out. Which, to be frank, again, I don't think I wanted to see any more than what I saw. But then Rollins puking, I didn't need to see that either. And yeah, too far.
Yeah, no, the ending was a little strange. Yeah, like it seemed like Ray was finally getting the upper hand, as you had mentioned, the sunset bomb into the barricade, and then he had sort of done it again. Seth was sort of on his last legs. He hit him with a curb stomp, and you're like, all right, he's worn Seth down pretty much here, getting him ready to take his eye into the corner post after he had ripped his eye patch off to declare that his eye was fine once again. The spot everyone was sort of expecting to see here in the match. And then, last minute kind of low blow from Seth to sort of turn the momentum for him to get the stomp, and then take Ray and puncture his eye on the corner. I wonder in hindsight if I'm trying to remember if I'm sure it had the live tag on it or whatever. I'm pretty sure with this match, but I'm wondering if it was reactionary too, if they thought people weren't, like, they wanted to do this CGI thing and that was the original build, but they changes can happen on the fly and that kind of thing. And it felt like with all the hype and all the kind of build up that they were sort of like, maybe people aren't going to, we've dug ourselves a bit too much of a hole here. We got to do something that's not as far gone or whatever. Or maybe it didn't test well in the back, or who knows. Like, it seems like they wanted to do something more than just this shitty eye thing. So they tried to build it more. So it seemed weird. Yeah. Seth was sort of pukey and sick with himself after the fact that he had saw that he did it. Whereas, I mean, the first time there was blood everywhere. This time we didn't even see blood. So, a weird sort of finish to what could have been a sort of interesting, just sort of basic hardcore match that just had to have this sort of odd, unfortunate stipulation tacked onto it.
Yeah, they went way too far with this stip. It just way too far, because you could have done, if you really, okay, we got to write Ray off. How are we doing it? We're going to have him lose an eye. And this is your hell bent on this. How are you going to do it? Well, just then he loses an eye at the end of the match. Like, you don't have to have that be this stipulation where now you, like you say, once again, you booked yourself into a fucking corner.
Yeah.
It's like they do it for fun. It's almost like they've got two competitive teams of writers trying to fuck the other team over more. Like, how can we sink them even worse with a situation they got to get their way out of? I know, an eye for an eye match. I mean, I get there was extreme rules.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, it's just too far. And I totally get what you're saying with the suspension of disbelief. I love wrestling. Right? And I don't want to be Jim Cornette here, but I can only take the suspension of disbelief so far in some things before you're asking me to just be stupid about it. And at the point of these two guys that, I mean, this is the heat we've built, is that he injured his eye and he's touched his son and he wants to recruit his son. it's not the worst heat we've ever seen built in wrestling. The fact that they get to this spot of, well, now we're in an eye for an eye match situation is kind of ludicrous anyway. And that anyone would declare that as the match. How on earth? Of course you're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I can't suspend my disbelief for it. Right? And then so much of it then just seems silly and not exposing the bit, but it's silly. And then
right.
I'm stuck in this point of, if I want to accept this as, well, then anything's fair game. And at a certain point I can enjoy some things as that. And at a certain point, I just find it not insulting intelligence, but just too silly. Right? It would be like still trying to enjoy shows that were like kids shows that were great for my kids to watch because they're still entertaining and they can do whatever. And I found them entertaining myself at one point, but not now. And this stuff in particular, this one, like you said, take away all the hardcore aspects of the match. I thought they had a great match, but then you put in the ridiculous stip and all of most of the weapon spot, most of the action with that. And it bored me more than it excited me. I was much more excited and interested in the Falcon Arrow on the apron, the wrestling they were doing, getting in between the crazy weapon bits and the trying to get the eye. So, but again, that's just me. Like, wrestling's so subjective, everyone.
For sure. I gotta say, I can't. I'm definitely not gonna. I can't agree with all of that. I don't think I definitely think the ending was definitely not they definitely booked themselves into a corner with the stipulation and all that kind of jazz or whatever. But again, when you get there to the match, what are you going to do? You've got to do something. And again, if you're not just going to focus on the eye or whatever, at least I got that story. If we just got a wrestling match and then all of a sudden these eye spots, it would have felt weird. So to have the match, like every time he grabbed something, I was like, is this going to be it? Like, even if it was early, you're like, well, could it be it? Like, especially it went 18 minutes, like 10 minutes in, you're like, it could happen anytime now. So it was, to me, that amped up in the match, and to feel something different, it broke the monotony of the sort of things you see all the time. The same with when we'll get to the Drew Dolph match. At least with a stipulation that's complicated like that, it gives them a very simple story to tell in the ring. And that, again, here, this story was far more complicated than it needed to be, but it let them have a very focused match. The match was focused on the eyes. And to me, that was enough to take me into the story. I was like, oh, but when is it going to happen? So I guess that's a difference of opinion, and everyone's going to take the match differently or have expectations to what they hoped the result was going to be, kind of thing. And I'm not saying I was fully satisfied, but there was definitely parts of this I certainly enjoyed.
I'm going to say I have to agree, and I cannot deny I was invested in the match, both before it. I desperately did not want to miss this one. I was so stoked to find out that it wasn't one of the first ones I had missed while I was on the road still. So it's going to get a pro for it, like that side of things and the match aspects that I liked, right? But a con for the gimmick and a con for the puke and the non-eye finish.
That's fair. I can agree with those.
2 cons versus a pro.
Yeah.
I'm 3-3 now though for the show. So right.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, a big pro for me was this little vignette little video package that we got for another Undertaker thing. It seems like they have a lot of extra footage from the documentary of him just sitting there telling stories, and they've decided to put that together as a compilation. I'm almost maybe more excited for that than I was for the whole doc. I think Taker telling stories is going to be great.
We're doing this instead of watching that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I wanted to make sure I text you, be like, don't get too into the Taker doc. I'm saving that for another time. I want to get straight to this, and I'll get watching that after, because it was way too tempting. Like,
wait, we did forget right before the puking and stuff, the doctor's advice to Ray to take deep breaths, because I do believe that is the best medical advice for someone that has just had an eyeball forcibly removed from their head. Is to take deep breaths, you'll be fine. Then the Taker bit. Then we had Daily Dust Strap, sorry. That's awesome. That was an awesome little clip where she was like, I feel so sorry for Ray, and the snap into heel mode. She is so good as a heel, she can never turn face again, in my opinion. I think the two gimmicks are so different. She's got this heel gimmick down so good, but it's so vastly different from the hugger gimmick. She could easily hug someone and go right back to being face. In my mind, like you grow her hair out, throw the ponytail back in, and she gives someone a hug, she's right back to being Hugger Bailey. But that could be at any point. This heel character is fully cemented now, for sure. Like, I'm not arguing that at all. Wasn't she so much more boring as Huggy Bailey? Like, isn't she so much fucking greater now. It's a character, not in ring. In ring, that's awesome. But the character, I love this character so much more than Hugger, boring Bailey.
Difference of opinion. We don't have to disagree on everything here, but yeah. We also got another video for the Swamp fight before leading into, of course, the Asuka Sasha Banks Raw Women's title match next.
Well, this was this Swamp promo. I have to say, this was the first thing that I was like, I did not like this. I did not like this promo because it was Braun Strowman reading a script, obviously written by Bray Wyatt, and Bray's a great storyteller. Right, I love the fact that creative has given him, or Vince has given him, the green light to write his own stuff because he can tell that story and his character better than creative can. And I don't question that for any of them, though. So why is he writing Braun's bit? The bringer of pain and pestilence. When has Braun Strowman ever referred to himself as a bringer of pain and pestilence? He says, "Get these hands!" And now he's speaking like Shakespeare tonight? That doesn't make any sense. All it said to me was, why? Why are you scripting his stuff? Why didn't you let Braun be Braun in this bit? I'm sure he could have come up with ways he would have said exactly what Bray wanted him to say, but instead he read Bray's script. And I again, just me, I didn't like it. It was Bray's voice. It was Braun Strowman in Bray's voice, but talking to Bray. And it made no sense to me. I didn't like it. So yeah,
I think that's intentional that you see that. I think maybe I'm vibing with this story wrong, but I think you're intentionally getting a different side of. I think Braun hasn't been get these hands for a while. It's the Strowman Express. He hasn't been get these hands since the fucking Roman Reigns flipping fucking ambulances and all that, tearing shit down with a grappling hook. Like that was the get these hands monster Braun. Post first turning face and that kind of thing, right? No, he was a heel. He was a big ass heel then, and that was the whole get these hands thing. As a face, he has been more talky and that kind of stuff. Difference of opinion here. I didn't mind this as much at all. I really enjoyed that, especially leaning in from the last SmackDown thing. Obviously, you just saw this switch in Braun, or maybe he's been keeping it in or whatever this whole time, where he's just there's a deep-seated fear of the Fiend that he hasn't really decided to mention, but that or how much corruption there was as being a member of the Wyatt family. Again, a lot of it is subtext. It's not surface level. It feels like it's beneath the thing, and I like reading into that stuff more, and maybe it's there, maybe it's not, but I get my enjoyment from it regardless, so I'm fine whether it's there or not. And I'd rather take it in that way than just try to sit there and see anything bad in it to me, and that could be just putting on rose-colored glasses and trying to find something fun to enjoy. So if
you're right in the way that is, I'm reading it wrong and I'm just seeing it in that way and taking it the wrong way. I'm supposed to be seeing it that way, and that is what you're saying, and character development, not just an error. Then I would take it back and I would be wrong, right? But that's the way I read it tonight, and the way I could easily be wrong too. Saying, now that you say it and explain it out like that, I totally get the point, right?
And I think it depends on what route they decide to go, and it could easily be the other way too, where they just had him read something that seemed off, and the next feud that he gets into is something totally different. But it seems like they're not going anywhere different with Braun and Bray anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So it seems like the more stuff that can be bringing out that other side of Braun isn't going to be a bad thing to me. So. Anyway, we alluded to it earlier. We got a little sidetracked there, but we'll jump right back into the Asuka versus Sasha Banks Raw Women's Championship match here. What did you make of this?
Action-packed match. Great back and forth. Great wrestling. I mean, you really, I think, match of the night expectations for this going in were on the cards. And I think by the end of the match, I thought it had lived up to it until the fucking finish.
I gotta say, I think Adam Bonplay had the tweet of the night for this match in particular, where it was you had an NXT match with a WWE finish. Yeah. And that just was the story of this match. And it, again, with the pros and cons of this night, the match, a very high pro. We'll get to the kind of blow by blow of it as best we can, but the con especially being the choice in which to do the ending.
Yeah. If you, you want to start from the beginning somewhat, or it was a typical back and forth. I just until the part where Banks caught her feet on the ropes, going in the sun. She was trying to flip to the outside.
Right.
Sunset flip on Asuka on the apron, and she caught her feet on the top rope as she was going through the ropes. And she, very lucky girl that she pulled that back and landed properly, because that looked like it could have been disastrous for a moment. But
yeah.
Again, they're both so good. She saves herself from anything bad. The other thing I had here as well was thank God for Samoa Joe on commentary, because my goodness, are Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips ever fucking terrible. Like,
well, they're not fucking Josh Matthews.
They're not Josh Matthews. But what a weekend for shit commentary on wrestling. Jesus Christ. My high spots are Don Callis and Samoa Joe for like, yeah, not impressed.
I mean, he made, like, after hearing fucking Matthews last night, this made Michael Cole look like $1 million. Like, Jesus Christ, he's the fucking worst I've ever heard. This is far more tolerable. I'm not much on Byron Saxton and Todd Phillips either. I think they're a little. It's a weird choice for the Raw
for any
commentary team.
Yeah, so. I found myself for the first time in I don't know how long thinking out loud, boy, I wish Michael Cole was doing commentary tonight with Joe.
This easily could have been a crossover one too, because you had both shows represented with the competitors. It was the Raw Women's Championship, so I get why it was the Raw commentators. But yeah, it would have been fun with just like Joe, Michael, and Corey. I would have been down for that.
Yeah, anyway, sorry, yeah.
But no, I mean, blow for blow, this is a great match to just check out for sure. It was hard to, like, I was enjoying the match, so it was hard for me to write down what was happening specifically. No one really got an advantage spot, really. It was a lot of just, you know, I get a little bit, you get a little bit, I give a little bit, you give a little bit, back and forth here, which is what you expect from these two, a high-paced, high-action kind of match from the two of them. Some really good. Trying to remember some stuff specifically. The turnbuckle spots from Sasha, but when she kind of missed it, and or no, she got Asuka with the face and then missed it, and then she Asuka caught her with the code breaker coming off. I really liked that. The really big frog splash was nice. Sasha has a great job of hitting that, and then into the bank statement was really fun.
I think it was just before that there was a beautiful spinning back elbow Asuka pulled off and smashed Sasha in the face with. Just looked fantastic. Like it.
Yeah, a lot of striking, like chops and slaps and stuff. They were really, really going for it here, and then then I guess the story the match led into Sasha hurting her knee at some point, either in an outside spot or going for something off the turnbuckle or whatever. But she was unable to do it, and that was sort of the lead into where the match was going to go.
There was the modified go to sleep on the apron that Sasha had kind of thrown herself into. Suplex into the turn, like then the German suplexes that Asuka was hitting her with.
Oh yeah, she kind of botched that first one and then hit that next one. Just like, no, I'll correct that right now.
Yeah, but it was like almost like Sasha smashed herself in the knees herself in the face off of the landing on the first one. She's perfect take on both of those.
Yeah.
The second one, it was beautiful as well. It felt like it was going home at that one. The hip smash that Asuka hit her with, and then it was the 2 count from that. She missed the missile drop kick off the corner. Sasha goes up top. Asuka meets her on there because she was too slow up. It was awkward spot coming off there. That was right before the knee. And then she started yelling at her, I have to be the champ. I have to be the champ.
Yeah.
It was really good chain wrestling going back and forth, but then it was really telegraphed for the miss to the face spot, I thought. And then at that point, like, what the fuck? You just take the ref's jersey off, and as long as you put on the ref's jersey, you're the ref. Bailey counted 3. And I guess Sasha tonight, at least, is a champ. I'm sure it's coming up on Raw tomorrow, I guess, but you just felt like, again, you know, these pay-per-view finish shows, finish a storyline, get to the next thing, are not anymore at all. So
yeah, if this was just going to be, again, if it's just going to be a match leading in to Raw, like, to like have a cleaner finish one way or the other, to me it seemed like this was just like your cheap way of getting the visual, like that we talked about, like seeing the two of them both with all the straps without having to have it officially happen. That's kind of your easiest way around it. But why not just do it on Raw before leading into this match, and then get a cleaner finish coming out of it? Because I prefer to get something cleaner coming off of the pay-per-view, and this seemed more old Raw style, where like, well, you check out Raw tomorrow night, or like Attitude Era style, where they're like, check out Raw tomorrow night, so you can get the conclusion of this story, not here tonight, where you've invested your time and to get a climactic finish. And then it took away from what was a really great match between these two, because like a great match should crescendo to a really great finish. And then the sort of telegraphing from Bayley's concern on the outside was good throughout the match. She was finding the good moments for it and that kind of stuff. And then trying to find her place to interfere with the belts, it not working at first, and then them sort of finally getting the advantage. And then Asuka accidentally hitting the ref with the mist. And then it seemed like maybe that was just going to lead to a sort of ref bump type pinfall finish or something like that. And then just the fact that Bayley took the stripes and put them on herself and gave herself the pinfall. It was just sort of something we've seen a bunch of times, and didn't seem pay-per-view quality for sure.
It's just incredibly lame, right? I'd prefer it. What it made me think of was when we were talking about AEW and the Fight for the Fallen, and you were like the ending of the Cage Moxley match, defending the way they ended it, because it ends it in a clean finish, despite the fact that it's a loss is on record, and there are excuses though, and there's reasons, and there's rationale, and there's story to come out of it. There are other ways to go with this that leads the same way, and sure, there's stories to come out of it, but what a bizarre, like, again, the suspension of disbelief stuff. Well, why doesn't everybody that has a friend do that? Always trip the ref, hurt the ref, grab the shirt, match is over, you're the champs, good job. I don't know if you saw my tweet at this point, but I declared us the new Universal and WWE World Heavyweight Champions, because that seems to be the kind of night it is. You want to be a champ, MVP, Bayley, take the belt, go ahead, you're the champ. So we're the champs now. Congratulations. I don't know which one you want, but
they all mean nothing. You could have them all. Congratulations.
I look red or blue, so I don't.
Congratulations. Yeah, you can declare yourself
Holden Dos Straps.
There we go. Holden Dos Straps.
About time.
About damn time. Yeah. Not much else to really say about this. Hopefully get a better sort of finish from them later on, but felt kind of distracted from what could have been a really good sort of solid straight match from the two of them. I would have preferred a cleaner kind of finish, even if they'd done a way to throw in the towel or something like that, or keep someone looking like they all just weren't very, very silly here. So
have the heels heel to win, but have him heel to win with the ref counting the 3. It's the same thing.
Well, I mean, they should know that that's not official, right? Or maybe, I mean, again, if it's going to lead to that's why Sasha starts turning on Bayley, where she's like, well, no, I wanted to win legit, and you kind of screwed me out of that opportunity. I helped you get your match and your win, and you kind of took my opportunity from getting a clean win, which is what I kind of wanted anyway, as much as I'd like to see the visual of the two of them with all the gold. Story-wise, it seemed to make more sense that the jealousy was going to get to Bayley to eventually drive the wedge between the two of them. So we'll see what happens, but unfortunately we didn't get a conclusion here.
Yeah, I mean, when I envision Sasha versus Bayley down the road, it's for one of the titles. It's not a title versus title match. Like, surely we're not going to just start going down that road with everything now has to be a belt versus belt or title versus title because it worked well with NXT. I'm hoping not, but I'm starting to...
Unless they're going to do that to get rid of titles, because I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. Speaking of titles, right after this, we got the Raw Heavyweight Championship match, Dolph Ziggler versus Drew McIntyre, and Dolph announced his stipulations before the bout.
Yes, this was a big surprise. Everyone was like anticipating, putting in their predictions. There was potential spoilers of a TLC match that was advertised somewhere along the way that people had thought maybe that this match was going to end up being. And they kind of held it up to the wire here, and Dolph declared that he was going to have Extreme Rules here at Extreme Rules. Big shock on Drew's face. He's, okay, sure, I'm pretty excited to smash your face with a chair, but no, it's Extreme Rules for only me, Dolph Ziggler.
I thought it was going to be thumb for a thumb.
Thumb for a thumb. Oh, my gosh. Just because he put his thumb up? Or
the other stipulation that Dolph came out with was that the title will change hands if Drew manages to get himself counted out or DQ'd. So not only can he not break the rules because he's not allowed to, but if he does, he will lose that belt. So I was wondering right at the start, this for me I thought it was great because it opened up the possibility of like, are you going to flip the belt tonight? put it on Dolph in some backhanded, underhanded fashion. You've done some other zany, crazy shit already. Maybe this is where they're going to get the belt off of Drew so he can win it back once crowds are back, which they think is going to be soon, right? So, or relatively soon. So I thought for a while, and anytime they can plant that seed of doubt for me of who is going to win or lose, I'm more invested in the match. So I thought
that's
it was
a pro for sure, especially in a Dolph Ziggler match. If they could put any sort of like idea in your head that he might win, that's a cap on their end to think that like the damage that's already been done to this character, as much as he's fun to have in a match, it's so rare to think that he could actually win. So this stipulation definitely catered to that sort of, oh geez, are we just going to get a night full of surprises here? I thought maybe 2 was enough, the title change on SmackDown, and then the sort of not really title change with Sasha earlier. I thought, yeah, they could easily maybe keep that ball rolling with something here. But I think the other thing that telegraphed this too was it not being the main event. If the Swamp match had gone on first and then this main evented, that maybe would have added another element of surprise that like, oh, they do want to end with just that visual of Dolph holding that belt so that's what everyone is talking about come Monday on Raw kind of thing. So, but no, I think the stipulation helped the match for sure. You weren't sure what we were going to get if it was just going to be I mean, Dolph's great in ladder matches. I think that would have been fun if that was something they get to down the road maybe, but who knows. This stipulation, I think, worked, though, for telling a different kind of story. Dolph obviously looking for weapons, ways to cheat, ways to get around trying to win, not just being the other type of heel match that he would play. And then Drew McIntyre having to just work around all that stuff. So gave both the guys different stuff to work with and something else to focus on in a main event match. So I definitely think that was a positive here.
Yeah, my initial negative was that Dolph rather, he's talking about how smart he was picking this stip and how stupid Drew was in letting him pick the stip. And then he just stands there like an idiot on the outside of the ring until Drew starts beating him up. And then he's not hitting him. It's like, well, you're not using your brain too much in the match, which is a shame. Once the match got going, though, fantastic. Like,
oh, yeah.
Ziggler's advantages quickly snuffed off by Dolph as he goes back to just brutal attack. Stuff that we like to see from McIntyre. And back and forth. The chair shot stuff, I thought that was fantastic. And I love the way that, like I said, when Dolph caught him in the shoulder with the shot that was supposed to kind of look like a chair shot or a different angle one, I thought that was fantastic. A different visual again.
It was so much better on the replay, too. If they had just had that replay angle, like the other angle, you got it clean on the shoulder, but the replay angle made it look a little bit more heady. And I can be okay with those ones. You're like, I know he ate that on the shoulder, but the angle caught that. That was just good camera work. So, getting it on the other side of it, I really enjoyed that part of it. So, trying to think of, sort of straight to the outside from Drew, trying to avoid the Extreme Rules kind of stipulations. Dolph working the weapon, setting the table up, going for chairs.
Now, why wasn't Drew allowed to put Dolph through the table he set up, but he was allowed to throw him into the announce table?
Well, that's why I had that same sort of questioning too. I was like, well, an announce desk is different than a table, I guess, that's set up. These things are, and a weapon that's drawn from underneath the ring is different than, something that's out there in a regular match. You can,
Gotcha.
If you have to find some way to justify it, I'm sure the ref was sort of like, do I call that?
I love
normally it wouldn't be a DQ. I guess in my mind, like Dolph said, in any match where you would normally get DQ'd, this would be a DQ. So I would consider that like a ring post. People have been pushed into ring posts to not be DQ'd. I think being pushed into something is fine, but putting someone through something is maybe a little different.
The Faymaster off of the announce table, that was fantastic. I loved it. And the slingshot of Dolph up into the plexiglass and the visual of that, Dolph crashing into it, it sounded like some Sylvester cartoon from Warner Brothers. It was just beautiful, that visual of him crashing into the glass and smearing down it slowly.
Yeah, they had a good one from Raw with Kairi Sane doing that that I really enjoyed. So it was nice that they're utilizing the space with the cameras as well with the plexiglass there.
He gets the Claymore lined up, misses that, gets zigzagged instead.
Yeah, hits him with the chair shot to the knee to sort of start weakening the sort of stance of Drew McIntyre there, and then hits him with the zigzag, another 1-2, but not quite enough.
Gets him on the outside, gets Dolph up on the table. Oh, sorry, Dolph gets Drew up on the table and climbs up onto the top rope. And I was like, fucking 100% positive McIntyre was rolling off that table and Ziggler's going straight through that table. But my God, no. And that, my friends, is how you break a fucking table in the WWE.
That's right. That is
at 900 miles an hour with gusto on the elbow and a fucking extra hot sauce. It was beautiful. That was one of the best elbows to the outside and through a thing I've seen in years. It was fantastic.
No setup for it too. I like the super kick hitting into McIntyre, who laid forward first, and the table caught him, which was kind of his resting point to then roll over. I always hate the sort of setup to get a guy on the table. Sometimes that it can be very like suspension of disbelief, and I can get where you're just sort of like, oh, again, that feels cheesy. But that was I'm like, okay, I like that. It's believable. He kind of worked his way over there. So I really enjoyed that part too. And the height that Dolph Ziggler got, and that's having to come straight down through that table, man, what a bump that he took.
It's like
still not quite enough.
Have had a conversation being like, "Oh, you think you break tables? Hold my beer, I'll show you how to break a table, Shane." Like, that was fantastic. They hit him with the second zigzag and the rock bottom onto a chair, and only from that.
Yeah, all this sort of getting to Dolph at this point, kind of seeing that it's not quite enough to put him away. Eventually starts screaming, "Why won't you die?
Why won't you die?" Easy to beat up, hard to kill.
Exactly. And then he sort of, he's kind of gone through his bag of tricks a few times, hit him with the zigzag twice, the Faymaster twice by this point. So he's going deeper into his bag of tricks and starts warming up the band. So you're thinking, oh, here we get another Shawn Michaels tribute with the Sweet Chin music here. And then I really enjoyed this, the kip up from Drew McIntyre straight into the Claymore, which led to the finish, the 1-2-3, as Drew McIntyre retained. That finish was really, really fun. You could tell those two guys had worked that out, where they were like, man, if I'm warming up and I come in for a super kick, but you kip up right into the Claymore, like that was definitely, you could tell, a worked out spot, but mint.
Claymore out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of move that typically you can hit in that RKO fashion out of nowhere. Very impressive.
Now that he showed he can do that too, I'd love to see it in, as an out of nowhere kind of thing. Not all the time, but yeah.
Oh, exactly. But once in a while, the next time someone comes flying off the top rope with a double axe handle and you kip up into that, that's going to be a nice looking spot one day. So yeah, I thought this was a great match and hit all the points, all the story point stuff. It made better some of the story as we've seen it built over the last few weeks, because it was such a good match. And Drew's reign continues, plus his reign is elevated and looks that much more impressive, with a nice solid victory over a really great ex-world champion himself, like Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, and overcoming the stipulation, too, I think was more what got Drew over in this. I think people were sort of like expecting him to beat Dolph. It was going to be, what can Dolph do to overcome Drew in that sense, and then Drew overcoming that stipulation. So showing that it's going to take even more than a box full of toys to put Drew McIntyre away. Yeah, it definitely gets him over as a very dominant WWE champion. I really enjoyed this, too.
Yeah, no, I hit every right button for me, so I was in. I like
lots of pros across the board on that one for sure.
And then we hit the swamp fight. Now we'll see it two different ways.
Fair enough. Like I said, I definitely don't think this thing was perfect, but I certainly don't think I've got as much of a rough opinion that you had on it. But hey, that's wrestling, and that's definitely these cinematic matches. There's nothing been more polarizing, especially in this recent era of matches, is these cinematic matches.
Ain't that the damn truth?
Yeah. We got a bit of an intro from Michael Cole and Corey Graves talking before the match was starting, with their sort of janky setup after the chaos that we got in the match before. I was curious if maybe then they were going to be commentating. Made me think maybe it was going to be more of a wrestling match, which wasn't what we got, but an interesting sort of lead in to this. And then it's one of those where do you start kind of things, because it's a little all over the place. I guess you just kind of go clip by clip, because obviously we weren't getting a real wrestling kind of match here. So
we'll review this movie from start to finish, from the opening scene to the end credits, because that's what this was. Not a wrestling match, not even in any degree.
Well, I didn't expect it to ever be like a wrestling match. Absolutely not. And I think and that's a struggle they have with this new match style, but they're not finding a way to advertise them properly. Because I think if you had advertised this as what you were going to get, which is what I was pretty sure this was going to be was what it was. But to other people, because you don't know, in this like cinematic world can be anything kind of thing, you can sort of like lead people the wrong way, or change their expectations to sort of alter things slightly. So I find it, maybe it's more of the marketing sense that, yeah, marketing it as a match, as a fight, those kind of things don't help the cinematic part of it. But then again, I'm not sure how else you change that. So,
well, I mean, if you call it, it was the swamp fight or the swamp match, the fight in Wyatt's swamp. If you just called it the swamp affair, the
right.
swamp meeting.
Well, like they had the final destination for Hardy,
like,
right? Like it wasn't a match.
Including the word match or fight, because I'll be honest, my expectation going in was the Boneyard match in a swamp, with obviously, because it's Bray, but we got it in the graveyard match because it's Taker. Just some freaky shit will happen because it's Bray and it's in his swamp, right? Like almost more along the lines of the fucking nightmare that was him versus Randy Orton in his house,
right?
Which was, I thought that was an abysmal. That was, going back, that's probably the first cinematic match. Anyway.
Well, first for WWE, their take after the final deletion and that kind of thing, right? No, so I felt this was more final deletion than those kind of things. And that's maybe where I lean in that sense, that I know we're not going to get, you're going to get spots and that kind of stuff, but you're not going to get a typical match. And I'm fine with that. And I what's that?
Granted, and I could be totally fine with that. Like the Stadium Stampede match. I knew we were going to get crazy spot fests all over a football stadium. And that's what we got. I wasn't expecting a wrestling match. The Boneyard match, I wasn't expecting a wrestling match, but it was a fight all over a cemetery. So this one, and the only one I've hated until now was the Viking Raiders Street Profits. But I can at least understand that they did that as a comedy movie. And there were more fighting spots in that one than there were in this one. Like, the movie begins with Braun Strowman approaching the swamp, where he sees the sign of the Abandon All Hope sign, and he sees the Sister Abigail Bray Wyatt rocking chair is rocking away in front of him. So after a few moments of looking at that and hearing the laugh track, he picks up the chair and he smashes it against the Abandon All Hope sign, and he boldly strides into the swamp. And we're going to get Graveyard Match meets Firefly Funhouse, because we start getting weird clips of buzzards in red light, which I guess Bray can see to his left because he's looking over here, and then we see the thing. So it might be in his mind or it might be over here, but we're seeing what Braun sees in these shots, right? That's how I took that.
Fair enough. Maybe I'm a little lost in the match. Like I say, I remember he pulled up with the truck, saw Bray, and then Bray disappeared after he said, "I'm home." And then, he smashed the chair, walked into the woods, and started having the fight with the forest creeps.
He was beating up though. He didn't get to those guys yet. He got to the swamp man. The swamp man came right after he saw the buzzards. Then he got the swamp jobbers. Then he got smashed with the shovel. And then while he was down, I thought it might have been Eric Rowan returning that had hit him with the shovel, but no, as he opens his eyes, it's himself with the black sheep mask head on.
So I think right here, before we get any further, I think this is where the break in interpretation happened. And this is not on WWE's end, maybe it is or whatever, but I think where everything is open to interpretation, I think that's where things differ here. For me, the second that Bray disappeared from the chair and turned the lights off and turned them back on, I was like, well, then we are in the fun house, basically. You're now in the world where Bray has full control to do whatever he pleases, whenever he pleases, and that Braun is at the mercy of that sort of like whim to Bray kind of deal. So you weren't going to get just more serious aspects. Things were going to be more mystical in that kind of sense. I got that right away. I didn't need sort of more explanation. I felt that Bray doing something so mystical right off the bat was kind of letting you know that that was the kind of like thing you were in store for.
I got that feeling that it's the thing you're in store for, but I didn't take it we're in the fun house. I just figured Bray's got magic powers now, or because of the Fiend stuff, he's magical and mystical now. So
why would you think he would just fight him if he's magical and mystical? Why would you think he would just have a match?
I don't know. Why they're not? Why wouldn't they have a match? Like, why is he a wrestler? Like, I don't, right? There's a lot of the questions that you could lead from that. Like, but I don't get.
I think this comes down to character interpretation. I think more so than match interpretation. So, That's not what we're here for. Blow by blow. Where else? What else happened?
He's
He
looking up at his black sheep self, who smashes him with the shovel again. So
Yeah.
I took, like, in our storyline thing, I took this as the old Braun Strowman he's buried the new Braun Strowman, and now he's tied up in the chair. And I said, this is ironic, because this is how Wyatt will be buried if the Fiend, buried as the Fiend by his old self, should he lose this, right? Like the old Bray Wyatt things of the past that linger with the character that could never win despite the talk, could never back up what he said. That guy's going to come back and screw this Fiend character, which is so over and so powerful and good, if he can't win this match, if he can't win this war against Braun and win him over. That was the way I interpreted that part of it. And then once he was in the chains, I thought it was more of that, is why it comes in the old theme look, the old theme music, asks him if he likes his renovations, and then he's trying to tap into Braun's insecurities with what are they going to think of you when you're not the champ? What are they going to, I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to bring you back to my side. So I got that he's cult leading, trying to get him over. But I thought that the way I took it was that from the movie sense, or thematically, this is the Fiend trying to use Bray as a tool of control over Braun to make sure he maintains power and does not become what Wyatt used to be. He doesn't want to be a loser again. And
Right.
that maybe Bray Wyatt himself doesn't want to be controlled by the Fiend, but he's stuck right now. That was my take on it, storyline.
Fair enough. And I'm trying to come up with that's not the sort of the interpretation I got. I'm trying to think it was more the idea that they're trying to set up because even establishing early on that Bray can still be Firefly House Bray. He was in the macabre makeup, dressed up like Dracula, taking you to an old sort of timey type funny side. So there are still sides to Bray Wyatt. He hasn't fully retracted back to that specific gimmick, but for this story and match, that's what he's sort of leaning into. And I felt that story-wise or character-wise, that's what that segment of this was leaning so much more into, was that when Bray is this particular Bray, he's explaining stuff like I'm being controlled by something, but I'm seeing it through my eyes and I have no control over my body, talking about the Fiend as this sort of exterior force that's controlling him and something that he doesn't want to go back to. It's something that Firefly House Bray is okay with, that he is understanding that they talk through the hands, and he realizes that he needs to sometimes bring the Fiend out to make things better. Other Bray doesn't understand that. This Bray just wants to be Bray. He wants to be a god. He wants to be a cult leader and have all the power and all that kind of stuff too. So for me, it was just trying to set up the eternal struggle that Bray has with again, trying to find fireflies, his helpers, to help him control and be a god, not necessarily and then the bigger picture being Bray, I don't want the Fiend here as bad as you don't, or Braun, you don't want the Fiend here as bad as I don't want him here. He's bad news for both of us.
And I had down, is Wyatt hoping to kill the Fiend by reuniting the family in the swamp to escape it? And so I did,
or leave it there, right? The initial idea was that it was a mysterious image that lived in the forest that then came to Bray, and then when he went to Sister Abigail to explain it, she said, "Oh, sorry, son, that's you now. You've met the creature in the forest, and that is you." So if that's something that eternally Bray has just constantly struggled with, he's like, well, if I can be cult leader Bray, I don't have to go back into the woods, right?
Mm-hmm. And so I get that side of it. Then Sister Abigail appeared, and she had a snake with her, and they let the snake bite Braun, and then he woke up at a fire. It was a Darby Allin party he woke up at with one of the ninja jobbers running around on fire. What do you like better? Swamp jobbers? Ninjas without masks? Ninjas of the swamp?
Or burning gardeners or whatever. At this point, I really enjoyed, because I thought once you had the snake bite, I was like, okay, well then now you're getting into even more sort of is Braun seeing what he's actually seeing? Did he actually see a guy light on fire? Is he actually seeing Alexa Bliss as Sister Abigail? The mystery just kept escalating at that point. For me, at least, I could see the interpretation there too, where it just had jumped the shark at that point too.
Getting a sneak peek into Braun's Alexa Bliss fantasies, it's going to be a little awkward next time they meet up backstage, right? And he's trying to explain himself and why he saw that, and we all saw it. She saw it too, Braun. She knows now as well.
Do you not remember that story?
Well, I remember the story, but I mean, that was pretty explicit. Now she's still on his head all the time. She's burned in there.
Not like it ended with her leaving. I think she's always been in his head. Yeah.
If there's anybody ordering the $400 cameo videos, Alexa, it's going to be Braun Strowman. They're just different email addresses, right? They're fake ones. They're burner accounts, and it's all from him. So that's what I think.
Fair enough. Matter of opinion.
No, I remember the stuff for it. I just thought it was all like
I think it was Braun's head being lost, being lost to a snake bite, being poisoned, and now his brain being poisoned. Him not knowing. Obviously I'm not actually seeing Alexa Bliss out here in the forest, but now my mind can be manipulated by whatever Bray's doing to me. That was the only way I interpreted it. I wasn't taking it as like.
I thought it was Braun's fantasies.
I didn't see that. Again, this is all up to interpretation. Sure. They're not giving you a direct specific story, and when you don't do that, this is what happens. So,
and then the match was on because they started to fight for like a second, and then he got Braun chokeslammed Wyatt into a boat, and the boat floated away into the water. Crocodile's in the water. Our crocodile. That's Jaws. It's just a crocodile instead of a shark. And then the boat floated away, and then the boat floated back quickly, but Bray was not in the boat. So, of course, like a Friday the 13th or Halloween, any horror movie trope that you've seen, Braun wades into the water to go and see if the monster's in the boat. Where's the monster? I can't see the monster. The monster comes up from behind and smashes him in the back with another shovel. And now I think we're going to see a blinding and a drowning in the same night as he's holding Braun under the water. And then
I must have missed the second shovel bet.
He nailed him with a shovel as he came up from behind him in the water. When he had the water, he didn't just hit him with open hands.
Oh, he had the oar later on when they were on.
Oh, was it an oar?
That was when they were on the deck. That was after.
I thought it was the shovel.
He was like, I interpreted that he was like beside the boat under the water. And then when Bray came up beside the boat, he was like, well, got you, asshole. I fucking just been hiding behind the boat the whole time, you dumbass. Like, why'd you walk out here? Like you said, he was the dumbass for walking out in the water, and he got fucking his comeuppance by being held underneath. And then Bray disappeared again, caught him up on the deck with the oar. And then, they sort of backed up. Brawling along the deck as then Braun got his last sort of bit of offense in as he sort of Sparta kicked Bray Wyatt into the water. And he sort of looked out across the sea, of which I guess he assumed the match was over. Again, this is where them calling it a swamp fight hurt the cinematic experience. If it was just going to be, if they had another name for it and you were just getting a like cinematic, I don't know what else you call it, like a swamp meetup, a Bray Wyatt, whatever.
You call it,
or you don't do it. I didn't hate it as much that you don't do it. I didn't hate it enough to say don't do it, but again, it's a matter of opinion. I think it was a fun way to bring the Fiend back too. If we haven't seen the Fiend since this other stuff, if this is the other side of Bray that had come out, I liked the character building there where he had been shoved back in. Maybe sort of elements of the Fiend was what sort of drew Braun back in, but I liked the visual of Bray trying to be the last thing to escape, but then being kind of sucked in by the Fiend as well. I think the mystery was kind of interesting too, to see where this kind of goes with Braun's character. Maybe he could just show up with wet boots on SmackDown and be like, man, what a swampy match. Let's see who's next for me. But I wouldn't put that past WWE, but I'd really enjoy more story here. I think there's plenty to be told. We didn't get a clean finish, but I think that comes down to more of the match being like portrayed as not what we were going to get. I got what I was expecting. I was expecting this sort of like horror story stuff because that's what Bray Wyatt's character is. I don't know if it's a match, it's something they're going to put in the ring. If they're saying it's a swamp stuff like this, then I'm expecting it to be what we got.
Like I said, I wrote down early on, this looks like a cross between the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse. And I think I would have been more all right with that being more obvious.
Is that just because it was at night? Like, what was your crossover?
Well, because it was a swamp fight. Like, why would I not think it was going to be a match in a swamp? They booked it as a non-title match.
Okay. No, I see that. Fair enough.
So, right, I don't mind having the swamp jobbers attacking. I don't mind having different bits all over the place. I don't even mind that Wyatt magically transports him around because Bray is, like I said, he's a bit magical now with his Fiend shit. What I don't dig is that they honestly, this was just an attempt at them, and as had been advertised through the week, this is a movie. They are making a short horror movie. Yeah. And that was what they were attempting to do and get over with this. And I didn't buy it as that. Like, I love Friday the 13th. I love Jason and Halloween movies. I don't get what this was taking these characters from this very specific world that we know them in, and, you know, already what is a convoluted, fucked up character with the initial Bray Wyatt, let alone what the Fiend has become, and just, for me, convoluting it that much more and confusing. And I get it. I get what you're saying.
But like, how would
there's a place in wrestling for it? I don't want to try to say there's no place for these extended, very confusing or whatever. I don't want to suggest that, like, wait, I didn't understand it, so it shouldn't be. But it's not for me, and especially told in this format. And I like the Funhouse match, man. I thought that was a great way to tell that story. Right. Maybe just because I got it better. I didn't get this. I bought it as a crappy horror movie, and it didn't deliver in the blood scene at the end. So, like, what, the Crocs eat him? There, I saw the crocodile. No, because the Fiend's up. So was it the Fiend that ate them both down there? Because he is taking over the old Wyatt again. Like, we were supposed to see old Bray again now, or did that finish him? What has happened to Braun? I hate being left with these questions at the end of what I thought, like I said, was going to be a match. Like, I'd much rather just see him get to the finale, get him in the ring, and go for it, man. Like, that's what I want to see. But
fair enough. I don't think the Bray Wyatt, as much as Bray is great in the ring and he can have great matches and that kind of stuff, I think Bray is better utilized in this bigger, broader sense. You get much of a more taste of the character, the broader take that what he can portray as well. He can do that stuff in the ring too, but we can get back to that when we have a crowd. If you have this opportunity now to expand the character, expand the universe, expand the places that you would be more hurt going if you were like taking away from a live crowd match. But hey, if they don't have a live crowd right now, why not have some fun and let the character expand and grow and be something more unique and like something you can look back on and be like, okay, well, what worked, what didn't work in this, but at least we tried something. Like I'd much rather see them try things like this and see what worked and what didn't. Like, and then, even when they do that in the other cinematic stuff, they try to pick what works and what doesn't, and it just sort of leads to the next into the next. So I definitely agree they're overdoing it. It's kind of outwearing its welcome. It's not the best way to do these kind of things, but they're doing it. So sometimes you just sort of have to take the good with the bad. I agree that it's not the best way of doing stuff, but I don't see them fucking stopping anytime soon either. So you sometimes just have to accept it. The Bray Wyatt character is so weird and mysterious that I'm not expecting a solid storyline. If you look at if you just showed the Firefly Funhouse match to some, like, a random fan, they'd be like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, unless you know the story of John Cena, it would seem just so fucking obscure and crazy. So this, again, would be the same way. But if you are trying to pay attention to the Braun or the Bray character, I felt there were sort of like seeds and stuff layered in there that are helping him sort of expand and become more than just a fucking loser, basically. It was what all he was before. So
yeah, and like, you know, I won't argue with I love that they try different shit, because I agree with that completely, and the timing of it and stuff. It's hard to argue with any of that, for sure. I guess I'm just like I say, it's a matter of presentation and taste on stuff. Like again, I don't want to sound all Jim Cornette, and I'm starting to feel like I'm just maybe the old guy trying to watch it sometimes, because I loved Firefly Funhouse. I thought that I got for what it was, and because the Cena character, the way they'd done the Fiend. This one, despite I get some of the storyline points as you saw it, I think I saw it the same way. I just didn't appreciate the way it was done. I'd much rather you can do all this stuff. We've done it for years in a ring with matches. And so at a certain point, and maybe it's just that, maybe I've just had enough of the cinematic ones. I definitely, for me tonight, I don't want to see another cinematic match till like next WrestleMania, man. I don't need to. I'm done with it for a while.
Fair enough.
Again, just me. Like, I get it. I'm not suggesting I'm right. That's just my take on it. So
yeah, I'm always just trying to look
that's
at
it.
like
I just passed it. It's jumped my shark, so but
yeah. I felt
right,
like
I have to put up
I'm trying to
with it
think
as long as
if
you
it
do.
would have been better in the ring, and I felt like in the ring you would have just had too many focus points of just them wrestling that would have taken away from the story. And this was very story focused, as much as it was all over the place and weird. That was the story we were getting though, was you were just going to get something weird. If you go to the Wyatt Swamp, it's fucking strange and all over the place and weird and macabre and strange, not just a typical kind of wrestling match. And this was drastically different from the Firefly Braid that we got last time Braid came out. Yep. And then hopefully will lead to a very different Fiend match next. So if this is a rework again for the Bray character, I'm all thinking bigger picture here. So I can take some of the bad and kind of maybe overlook it and not be as like offended by it, because I'm hoping that they're just trying to give a guy an opportunity here to build a bigger character.
And to be fair, I was pretty harsh and have been for a long time on the way that the Fiend's been packaged as this indestructible monster. Like, how were you ever going to get out of that? So yeah, this is making strides to grow the character and get out of that.
For sure.
I feel like, how can you shit on that when they're trying to make me? I guess I would have just rather personally would have done it a different,
something different.
Would have liked to see it a different way. But yeah, like we say, this is wrestling, baby.
That's wrestling, baby. A matter of opinion. And we sometimes have a different one here on Low Blow Radio, but hey, that's why it's fun to get into these conversations and discussions and see where everyone else has to say too. So
tell us who's more right in the comments section down below. And
yes,
we'll
please. Let's get it.
The loser has to do next week. We either have to admit we love cinematic matches, or admit that was the word. No, we can't do that. That's horrible.
Hey, if it gets comments, I'm fine. Come on, people. Comment on the videos. Come on. I don't want to get desperate here, but let's go. So anyway, I think it seems to be about the end. Chris, you want to let everyone know where they can hear us on Low Blow Radio?
The tally, by the way, was 6-6. Pros and cons. So
hey, I'm proud to ask. So man, that's
how I felt
exactly how I feel about the show too. So it was about a half and half. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. Hard to recommend, but yeah. There's your blow by blow.
You can catch us live on the radio, the old real life radio. 88.7 FM, The River in Ontario, or online, 887theriver.ca. And you can listen live along on a Wednesday at 7 p.m., or you can check out the archives. You can also check out the podcast, this one, on Spotify, Sounder, and various other webcasty platforms.
That's right. And if you want to watch us and get the video package here, you can check it out on YouTube. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe here as well. And yes, get in the comments section. Let us know how you feel about these videos. We'd love to get some feedback from you all. And make sure, follow us on Twitter. Get at us on there. We try to get out into the community as well. And we'll be back here for a blow-by-blow of just a classic Dynamite this week. No more special stuff, but a good old-fashioned Dynamite. Back to AEW. I'm excited.
Aren't they going to find a way to get a double F alliterative name for it this week?
Maybe not. We'll take a break. I think let's go back to some normalcy back at AEW, and we'll be back with another blow-by-blow. So, Chris, I'll see you then.
Adios, amigos. Thanks for watching.
Now